สวัสดีค่ะสาวชัยภูมิสวนกินขนมเส้นนะจ๊ะมื้อนี้เด้อขนมเส้นจ้ะพอดีใจร้าย
Buffet. Pretty sure that's not one thing. Barbecue buffet. A buffet is the complete opposite of one. Okay, barbecue.
มีผักต้นหอมผักปลูกไว้เยอะงามผักสีผักกะหล่ำจ้ะมากินน้ำกันค่ะ
That's why I went to thezebra.com. Because while every company claims to save you money on car insurance, the Zebra shows you who actually can.
Compare car insurance for free at thezebra.com today.
ผู้เดียวก็ไม่แซ่บ
Schools and the media are promoting socialism to our children and undermining the important values we're trying to teach our kids. That's why your kids need my Kids Guide to Fighting
วันนี้ไป
Socialism.
ซื้อของย
It'll
วน
help them learn the dangers of socialism and how to fight back. And I
เอ
want
เชี
you
ย
to
มา
have
ร์เก็ต
it
ค่ะ
for free as part of this free gift bundle.
เลยได้ขนมเส้นมากิน
Free Kids Guide to Fighting
ไอ้
Socialism
ลูกชิ้น
gift
ปลามา
bundle.
ใส่
Just visit socialismstinks.com. That's
โอ้บอกพริก
socialismstinks.com.
เผ็ด
All right, welcome back to Rob Schmidt tonight. Movie star Matthew McConaughey, a native of Uvalde, Texas, believe it or not, taking over the White House press briefing today and saying that something's got to change.
We need background checks.
เมื่อกี้อ๋อ
We
ปลูก
need
ไว้
to raise the minimum age
Right.
to purchase an AR-15 rifle to 21. We need a waiting period for those rifles. We need red flag laws and consequences for those who abuse them.
So McConaughey talked for a while. He talked about meeting with the victims. Obviously, what happened in Uvalde, Texas, was just disgusting, and what he went through in the days after, consoling
น้ำ
the
จ๋ากิน
families,
ได้อบ
obviously had a major impact on him. He was a bit over the top at times, as you might expect from a Hollywood
ได้แล้ว
actor.
กินแล้ว
He made some points that are fairly easy to refute by Second Amendment advocates, though. One reporter asked the White House a very pointed question
ปิดม่าน
after
แป๊บนึงนะจ๊ะ
McConaughey spoke.
Why is he turning to a Hollywood actor to make the message? Take the message to the American people. Doesn't mean that his voice doesn't matter.
So that was one question for the White House. Texas Congressman Chip Roy joins us now to go over what we saw today. Good to have you on, sir. Thanks for coming on. Your thoughts on what we saw today from the briefing?
Well, I didn't get a chance to watch it. Look, I'm one of those people, give a lot of people a lot of grace. I think Matthew McConaughey is from that neck of the woods, and he's a Texan, and so he has a right to, speak out about what he sees and what he thinks. And look, obviously our hearts are going out to all of the people of Uvalde, Texas. It's a tragic day.
Yeah.
But let's go down the list of things that I
เสียงบ่เข้า
understand that we talked about. You just
เยี่ยม
rattled
ตา
them off. I didn't have a chance to see it live. But when you're talking about what we need background
มื้อนี้
checks, we have a background checks for
ได้ของมาหลายอย่าง
99.x% of all purchases, right?
ของแพง
Anytime
ขึ้น
you're
ค่ะ
purchasing from a federal
ไอ้
firearms
น้ำปลาร้า
license holder, if you go to a gun show, you have to go to an FFL holder.
สุนารีมา
Almost
แซ่บ
all
แซ่บ
are transacted
หากก็
that
ลองกิน
way,
ของเพิ่น
unless
เบิ่ง
you're gifting it or something to a family member, for the most part. If you talk about the age restrictions, well, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals just found that age restrictions to be constitutionally
กินซ้อนนะจ๊ะ
problematic because you're talking about rights
กิน
that
มื
are
อบ่
recognized
ถ
under
นัด
the
ปานใด
court, and that means that it flows to an adult, right? And you don't start parsing out rights based on some age, 22, 25, 30, 50. And so that's a legitimate question. Look, the bottom line here is what we need to do is be very serious at the state level about civil commitment, about committing people who are a danger to themselves and
แซ่บจ้ะ
others.
แซ่บ
Remember that more people die by hands and by knives than rifles in the United States of America every year. So if somebody's crazy, okay, and they're crazy in a school, and I've got kids in school, then let's get them out of there and let's go commit them and deal with them. But to try to go target our constitutional rights is I think, a pretext. And every Democrat I know in the House Judiciary Committee acknowledges that effectively it's a pretext because they want to ban all the weapons in the first place.
Well, and that's exactly where the problem comes from, and that's why I thought today was really interesting because you do have this guy. He talked about
แล้วก็ลูกชิ้นปลา
guns. He appears to love guns. He grew up firing guns. He is a Texan. I do believe that he, for the most part, is a fairly moderate political person. He wants to be kind of the bridge of the divide, which is
เออ
pretty
คล้าย
broad.
จะคล้ายมา
But again, and I said it in the intro, a lot of the things that he pointed to are easy to refute from Second Amendment advocates and might not get us
ซื้อ
very
มา
far.
ได้บะเขือมาบ่ได้
And
ลื
I
ม
guess
ไป
for a lot of people,
ลืม
you
บะ
see
เขือ
these things and you see all these dead kids, and we talk about we have to find these people that are sick, but in a country like this, it's so big. I just don't know how you do that. And I think what was expressed today was that even though McConaughey gets up there and says a lot of things that probably wouldn't get us very far, you know, he kind of identifies that core of this country that's just like we have this problem and it seems like nobody knows how to fix it.
Well, at the end of the day, what you've got in this situation with Matthew McConaughey is he's a Texan and this is his community. And so, you know, God bless him for wanting to have a conversation. I'm happy to have that conversation. I think we ought to start with securing our schools. I think we ought to start with ensuring that we've got the resources necessary to make sure that they're not able to be breached, not having crazy people be able to get in with a firearm through a back door and then into a classroom. I think we ought to start with making sure that people who have mental issues are in fact, you know, put into commitment and are taken away from society so they can't harm individuals. And I think that we ought to remember that whatever you do, right?
ซื้อพริกแห้งมากินค่ะ
was noting just
พริกนั้นมัน
yesterday
แพงหลาย
that you have a gun that a 22-year-old buys with a
ซื้อพริกแห้งก็ได้กินโดน
rounds, a magazine that holds 10 rounds. Then what? What happens then? What's the next step, right?
พริกกำลังจะเจ้าของกำลังปลูกกำลังออกดอก
a country that believes in our fundamental rights and freedoms, and we've allowed our kids to get pulled away from the family. We've got kids this kid who's alone, 2 years, he's not really in school. He's only working part-time. He doesn't have a dad around. His mom is involved with drugs. He's with his grandparents. And this kid loses his mind, shoots his grandmother, and goes to school and shoots kids. Right? I mean, that kid is sick. He was going around talking about raping women. He was going around talking about killing and hurting defenseless animals. This is somebody who needed to be pulled aside and pulled away from society.
But is that where red flag laws come in? Is that where that, I mean,
well,
obviously
red flag laws, remember, right, but remember every state has provisions in their law, as we do in Texas, as Florida does, for example, in their Baker Act laws and other states, where you can go commit an individual. When you have a red flag laws, you start running into other questions about due process. When can they come in and target you for your weapons and what you've got to defend yourself? Or let's take another issue. Last week in the Judiciary Committee, we passed legislation through that committee over a lot of our votes against it that would, for example, make it unlawful for me, a Texan, to have a 20-gauge single-shot shotgun or a 22 lever action propped up in my corner of my house because I have kids in the house. It would make it unlawful, okay? And I need that to go shoot coyotes, to go out and shoot snakes. My kids, they learn, they're around those weapons. How about the ranchers in South Texas who have to have weapons to defend themselves or give them to their kids? And I find it interesting that Democrats have finally found Uvalde on a map. Because they sure as hell haven't found it on a map in the last year.
กินฮอดกระเทียม
That's a good point. It's a very good point. Congressman Chip Roy, it's an endless conversation about this and figuring out how to keep people safe. I mean, these
กล้อง
shootings,
นี่
it's so
สองมือหมด
troublesome, and solving it is proven to be so complicated. It really is. We appreciate you coming on, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. God bless.
All right, so the January 6th made-for-TV movie is all set to premiere this week, probably to horrible ratings. A new ABC Ipsos poll shows it is the last thing on voters' minds. In fact, it doesn't even make their top 6. And that's something. NBC's Washington correspondent, Yamiche Alcindor, who is a Democrat activist, says it is the committee's job to
ใบมะกรูด
force
รวมแพง
you to care.
I think the biggest challenge for lawmakers here as
ก็
they
ปลูก
talk
ง่าย
about these sort of
ๆ
huge ideas of American democracy and sort of the experiment that we're all
หัก
living
บ่
and
หอม
benefiting from
มัน
possibly
โดน
being
ให้ได้
brought
บุ
to his knees is whether or not they can make people care, Andrea.
Painful, isn't it? Today in the New York Times, the January 6th hearings give Democrats a chance to recast midterm message. Oh, yes, ignore the collapse of your society. White supremacy is the real problem, and we're going to lose our democracy if we're not careful. Former Trump trade advisor Peter Navarro knows this game better than anyone. He was just arrested at Reagan Airport for ignoring a subpoena regarding January 6th. And Peter Navarro joins us now, author of Taking Back Trump's America. Sir, good to have you on. You're set to appear in court for an arraignment here pretty soon. Where's your head at tonight with all this?
My head
ซื้อข้าวเหนียวมา มือนี่ตำ
Thursday nights is prime
แล้
time
วบะเกียวกิน
farce. I want to
กับข้าวเหนียว
cast it, not recast it, tell it for what it is. And I did this in a civil suit against that kangaroo committee. That committee Pelosi herself called it unprecedented. It's a partisan witch hunt that is neither duly authorized or properly constituted. It has no authority to issue subpoenas, much less enforce them. And they commanded me to appear before that committee, and I politely told them that executive privilege is not mine to waive, and that their appropriate legal response would be to simply go to President Trump and negotiate any waiver of their privileges, which way I would apply if he did so. That's where my head, Rob, is at this republic is disintegrating politically as we see it, because these partisans on Capitol Hill are so out of touch. You put the 6 issues up there. I didn't see witch hunts on Capitol Hill and stopping Trump run for presidency as being one of the 6 Americans care about. How about gas? How about an invasion on the southern border? How about nuclear weapons being brandished possibly in Ukraine because of how Biden is handling the crisis? That's what I'm worried about. That's what you and I talk about all the time now. Let me say one thing, Rob. People need to understand that when the FBI assaulted me with 5 agents on my way to Nashville, Tennessee, that has never happened in our republic's history to a senior White House official. This was beyond the pale. I wound up in leg irons. I wasn't allowed to call a lawyer. No food, no water, solitary confinement. Illegal aliens to Al-Qaeda terrorists were treated better than I was that day, and it was simply sent. They were trying to send some kind of message to me and the American people that if you push against their woke crap, they'll come get you. And come get me, they did. And I live, Rob, I live literally 50 yards across the street from the FBI. I called the agent that would take me down that day and take me. I called him 2 days before. I said, Walter, look, anything you need, I'm here. You don't need to bang on my door in the early morning and give me a subpoena. You want me to do anything? I'm here. They chose to do the worst possible thing and leak it to the press. Yeah. So I'm sitting in a solitary confinement. I can't talk to my lawyer, and every reporter in Washington knows the borrow's behind bars, and they're starting to write stories about it. It's just wrong.
The point is suppression. The point is intimidation. It's very clear. They do not want. They don't want you talking. They don't want to hear from the other side. They want to suppress their competition, I guess, in the other party. They don't want Trump. They don't want any of this, and this is exactly what they're doing. It is astonishing the way you were treated. And your story with this is not done yet, and we'll watch what happens on Thursday night. Peter Navarro.
Quick thing,
go ahead.
Quick thing, Rob, that's important. I'm looking at about $300,000 more. You can feel pleased. If you care, buy that Taking Back Trump's American book on Amazon today. That's going to be my legal defense fund. And that's what they do to you. They try to drain you dry and crush you and break you every which way but loose. But I appreciate the time tonight, Rob.
Appreciate you having on, Peter. Good luck to you, sir. Appreciate it. We're tracking the latest primary results. 7 battleground states. Hoping to hear some news about California that pretty soon as well. The latest from our election desk is coming up next. Plus, did you ever think that your tax dollars would end up going to one of Hunter Biden's many prostitutes? They did. And there's a whole lot to the story later in News from the Left.
วันนี้ก็น่าจะเป็นไรสวัสดีค่ะขอบคุณที่รับชมติดตามค่ะขอบคุณจ้าเป็ด